Right when I went through those trees, all of the snow behind me collapsed and I fell backwards into the hole.
I caught this little glimmer of his snowboard and just like the tiniest little flash of red.
Okay, you're good. You're good, I got you.
Pulled up right in front of her, jumped out of my car, and right as I was jumping out, she was screaming for her dog. She's okay, your dog's okay. She's got more time to live.
Please excuse Joseph from work today. He was a good person.
If you want to give, please give. If you want a sandwich because you can't afford to eat, we got you. Community is our whole life over here. Everyone needs each other. Everybody relies on each other. Lots of love.
I'm King 5's Olympia Bureau Chief Drew Mickelson. We cover stories here at the state capitol that impact all of our lives, but sometimes it's the stories that don't happen in the public eye that have the biggest impact on all of us. Like a total stranger who jumps into a burning car to save a woman and her dog on the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, or the story of a long-lost couple reunited after 70 years apart. Join us as we look back at the positive stories of 2023 and the people behind them.
This video is from Francis Zuber's GoPro. He's capturing a deep powder day that skiers and snowboarders dream of. He didn't know it at the time, but he was about to save another man's life.
Are you gonna hike in?
Snowboarder Ian Stagger was also in the Mount Baker backcountry, just a few hundred yards down the mountain, and he was in trouble.
Right when I went through those trees, all of the snow behind me collapsed and I fell backwards into the hole.
Stagger, a lifelong snowboarder, was sucked into a tree well, face down, was unable to move or radio for help. He thought he was going to die.
Kind of right when I was having that thought that I felt him grab onto my board. The second time, he actually used my board as leverage to pull himself closer.
Oh, you all right?
Zuber immediately starts digging.
I caught this little glimmer of his snowboard and just like the tiniest little flash of red. A split second stopped and looked back uphill, and that's where I saw his snowboard, wiggling back and forth. So I knew that, there's a snowboard there and there's somebody attached to it.
It would take him 1 minute and 30 seconds to clear the snow covering the trapped snowboarder's face.
Okay, you're good. You're good, I got you.
Both men want to warn others of the dangers that even the most experienced riders can face.
It could really happen anytime, so it's just something you got to be aware of and, look out for your buddies out there.
A skier and snowboarder who didn't know each other but are quickly becoming friends.
I'm trying to do all those things that you say you're gonna do and you find that you never have time for. Hugging and telling the people that I love, I love them, and letting go of any sort of grudges or resentment.
Despite the near-death experience, both rode off the mountain uninjured. Two men that say they're still praying for more powder days. In Bellingham, Sebastian Robertson.
Be careful when you go out in the backcountry.
Yes.
King 5 News.
They wheeled him out of here with his eyes open. That was quite a day on the job.
A job that feels like a new voyage every day.
It's a lot of fun. It's never boring. There's always something going on. The probability of something happening when you're ushering thousands of people across the water every day is pretty high.
Graham Lee has been working at the Edmonds Ferry Terminal for the last year and a half. His primary job is directing traffic. But on August 26th, it became something much more after one passenger getting on the Spokane ferry suddenly...
He just stopped and fell backwards and then hit his head.
Lee overheard this medical emergency over his radio that the passenger became unconscious with no vitals in sight. So Lee bolted from his post to provide help.
Almost no time to think, really. It happens so fast, it feels like a long time, but it's really quick.
When he arrived, there was another ferry worker and a couple passengers administering CPR, eventually bringing out the AED.
Administered the AED shock. The medical professionals, one of them was doing the oxygen over his face, and the other was checking for his pulse. And then there was two other people that did chest compressions, and I was just part of the rotation.
Lee says they were doing this process for about 5 minutes, but it felt much longer before the passenger regained consciousness and the paramedics arrived.
Happy to tap in, and I'm just really glad the guy pulled through.
He doesn't know the passenger's name and says he may never see him again, but he's okay with that and says it's just part of the job.
We're part of transportation, but main part of the job is just keeping people safe.
Reporting in Edmonds, Brady Wakayama, King 5 News.
Joey Jaswick's workday at Legacy Telecommunications typically looks like this. High above a cell tower, making sure the equipment is working properly.
I built this one out and started building that one.
Joey prides himself on being reliable.
So I'm a really good communicator, I'm a hard worker.
He's also being called a hero around the shop today after he ran towards these flames.
My dog!
Joey jumped in to help the driver of this burning car and her dog named Petunia.
Pulled up right in front of her, jumped out of my car, and right as I was jumping out, she was screaming for her dog, and the dog was trying to run off. So I ran up, I bear hugged the dog, and I asked the lady, I said, is there anyone else in the vehicle? She said no, thankfully. So this car is just burning up. I was just main concern was, is there anyone else in that vehicle? Because they need to get out now.
Joey was in the right place at the right time. That woman's car caught on fire in the middle of the Tacoma Narrows Bridge during a very busy and chaotic time of day. And all of this made him a little late to work.
Please excuse Joseph from work today. He was a good person.
He asked me, he's like, well, where are you heading? I was like, oh, I'm a little late for getting back to work. And he asked me, he's like, do I need to write you a note?
Back at work, he went on with his day.
We have to finish building the insides out, so that way it's got the proper communication.
But this was on his mind all day.
If you have a chance to help somebody, help them.
And because he helped,
she's okay, your dog's okay. She's got more time to live.
in Gig Harbor, Madison Wade, King 5 News.
We're going to be delayed a little bit. It looks like we have to divert a barge from hitting the waterfront. And I believe from downstairs I heard somebody say cool.
A captain's tale of an unforgettable day out on the water.
Definitely see the David and Goliath aspect of it. A small aluminum passenger vessel going up against a giant steel barge and all those containers.
That's King County Water Taxi Captain Dan Crable. He and his crew were traveling to Pier 50 from West Seattle when they noticed this 300-foot container barge drifting toward the Great Wheel in the Seattle Aquarium.
One of those this isn't good situations, and we're the only ones around to help to try to make it better.
Within moments, Captain Crable and his crew sprung to action.
It needed to be diverted away from the waterfront, and that I had access to the flat side of the barge. I knew I could get up against it and start pushing on it without any major damage to the boat or putting anybody at serious risk.
This quick thinking eventually allowed them to push the barge north toward empty Pier 66, where tugs arrived, pinning the ship to the terminal until it could be retrieved. The water taxi was not damaged, and according to the owners of the barge, no injuries were reported, and only minor damage occurred.
I'm glad that we were able to be there at the right time and the right place. If it had happened at any different a time, we either wouldn't have been there soon enough or we would have gone past it before it came loose, and it would have been an entirely different outcome.
He's grateful for how this story ended as this humble captain returns back to work tomorrow.
Once that was over, it's kind of, well, I'm going to have to tell my wife about this, and she's making a bigger deal out of it than I am.
Reporting in Seattle, Brady Wakayama, King 5 News.
Big crowds, tight time frames, and lots of moving parts, all things you can plan for at the airport. But no one was prepared for what they encountered on the tram on St. Patrick's Day in SeaTac, except for Tara Fitzgerald.
I kind of just went right into EMS mode.
She was able to help a man having a heart attack.
I kind of looked over and there was a group of people kind of on the ground, helping somebody, and I have a lot of medical experience.
Fitzgerald worked as an ER tech for several years and as a volunteer firefighter at South Bay Fire Department in Olympia prior to that.
I immediately just kind of knelt down beside him and just started doing my initial assessment. At that point, he was still breathing, but pretty quickly I realized he was deteriorating. Checked for a pulse and we both didn't find one, and I said, okay, I'm gonna start CPR.
She asked one passenger to call 911, asked another passenger to time her CPR compressions, and another
to get the train to stop. It was so crazy because the train just kept moving to station.
It was at that point what the airport had on hand, she says, came in handy. A bystander handing her this device so she could resuscitate him.
So we gave him a shock, and I ended up doing one more round of CPR, and he started breathing on his own.
Fire crews transported him to the hospital, and Fitzgerald continued on to baggage claim, where she surprised her dad for his birthday.
As parents, how does it make you guys feel?
Oh, so proud. We were already proud, but this is just a lot.
Now as she heads back to medical school in Utah, her message to the community:
Don't be afraid to take a CPR class. We all kind of stand back and watch, and it's easy to say somebody else will do it. But I think it's so important to just realize that you can be the one that actually does it.
Maddie White, King 5 News.
Not all good news comes in the form of a near-death experience. Sometimes the kindness of others can come from a sandwich.
Hi, Steve.
Pickles Deli is the kind of place where the staff know the customers by name.
Hi, Deb.
It's a place where community comes first.
Community is our whole life over here. Everyone needs each other. Everybody relies on each other for everything.
Recently, owner Kim Bailey noticed her neighbors coming into the deli hungry with no money for food.
It's heartbreaking.
So Kim decided to do what she does best, comfort her community with food.
This is the turkey cheddar off the island menu.
She created what she calls the Island Menu, a handful of sandwiches she'll give away to those in need, no questions asked.
If you want to give, please give. If you want a sandwich because you can't afford to eat, we got you.
In South Whidbey Island schools alone, 35% of students qualify for free and reduced lunches. 205 children receive free weekend meals. That's up 20% from last year. In the affluent seaside town of Langley, population just 1,100, the Good Cheer Food Bank serves 150 people every week. And in June, the town was forced to open its first tiny home village for the homeless.
It's really tough these days. Everything's super expensive. Gas, food, drink, everything.
And he doesn't need a bag or anything. Yes to go.
The most heartwarming thing for Kim, all of the sandwiches are being paid for with donations. Customers leaving a little extra money after lunch when they pay at the counter. In just a week, the deli has raised more than $1,300.
Which blows my mind. It makes me want to cry, actually.
Feeding body and soul.
I have all the ingredients to fill their bellies. Lots of love.
With the care of a community.
I wish I could do more. But at this point, this is what I can do. So we'll start there.
Kim's greatest hope is for people to continue to pay this forward, opening up programs like this all across this island and all around Puget Sound. In Clinton, Eric Wilkinson, King 5 News.
Did you sleep last night?
Oh, yeah. It's like Christmas morning, a birthday party, and the first visit from the Tooth Fairy, all in one.
I think about her all the time.
Everyone at Revel Issaquah has been looking forward to this day.
Claude has a very special guest coming over.
But no one has waited as long as Claude.
I have not seen her since 1958. That's her. She won the prettiest lady on campus when she went to college. And they would bus the girls up to Fort Devens for dances. And that's how I met her.
Claude and Marita spent just 4 weekends together in 1953, right before he shipped off to Germany with the Army. They never talked again until Claude found Marita's phone number in 2009.
I said, "You can't guess who this is." She said, "Claude Frabel?" Amazing. And she had remembered my voice for that length of time.
They chatted regularly and exchanged pictures of their families, but haven't seen each other since the 1950s.
She just is flying in right now to SeaTac.
Claude landed this special day thanks to help from his independent living community. Marita lives at Revel in Scottsdale, Arizona, and the company paid for this reunion.
70 years of anticipation.
And after all that waiting, Marita showed up 20 minutes early.
That's what you're waiting for.
Is it?
Yep.
Oh. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, wait a minute.
Hold on. I gotta put a microphone on you.
Even the guest of honor can't wait.
Hold on.
Did you see how excited she was?
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is cute. Hey, Claude.
It's time.
Your sweetheart's here.
Finally.
Let's go get her.
It's happening.
Welcome, welcome.
It's been a lifetime. A moment.
It's kind of exciting.
Where's Claude?
7 decades in the making.
I really am trying not to cry. I love you too.
Oh, God. So good to see you. Oh, what a beautiful
it's sweet. It's a sweet story. They haven't seen each other in 70 years. Yeah.
Their spouses have passed. They have grandchildren. Marita survived brain and lung cancer.
Well,
so much to talk about.
I was so fortunate to a little old farm kid from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, well, he was a tall and very handsome and a good dancer.
This story will not end with a wedding. These two long-lost lovers are going to keep things simple and just stay friends.
I'm just glad to see him again. And the fact that we are both...
This is the happiest day of my life.
Drew Mickelson, King 5 News.
351 days in the hospital, 831 days away from school. Gus Johansson was fighting the biggest battle so far in his life, a cancer diagnosis, leukemia.
Where we were at that moment, it was not looking good at all.
His favorite team found out about his story and had to surprise him. This was last October. This hug from Blitz says it all.
Awesome.
And the surprises kept coming.
What's up, Gus? It's DK Metcalf here. I just want to say thank you for all the love and support that you've given me. Just keep fighting, keep believing.
DK and Blitz told Gus and his family they would take them to a Seahawks game. Gus had to keep fighting to get better. And 1 year later, Gus and his family hopped on a plane to Seattle, straight to see the Seahawks practice before the game. Gus finally met his favorite player in person. And DK Metcalf had a big surprise for his friend. The Seahawks chose Gus to raise the 12 flag at the game. The very next day, it was time for Gus to shine.
A lot of people are going to be shouting my name and like cheering for me, probably.
And then it was time for Gus to go to the top of Lumen Field to raise the 12 flag. Gus will never forget this moment. The entire stadium on their feet for him. Cancer-free. Feeling the support of the Seahawks team and fans, Gus feels on top of the world.
It's an honor. It's the best. I'm so proud. Thank you so much.
Washingtonians are eager to show how much they care for one another, and sometimes they do the same for their furry friends.
10 years is really impressive. That's a long time.
It's been 2 days since Johnny Goodman was reunited with his cat, Pierre, after nearly a decade apart.
After a few months pet missing, you kind of lose hope. So to get that call last week was pretty wild, actually.
Johnny got Pierre in December 2010, and in 2015, Pierre went missing while staying with a family friend in Pierce County. Now, 8 years later,
He's an old man now.
Pierre is finally back home. Pierre was brought to the Tacoma Humane Society.
Good Samaritan found the cat. The cat was brought here, was scanned for a microchip, and was reunited with its original owner.
He was in rough shape, having spent years living on the streets.
Unfortunately, the cat was found in a not great state, lethargic, overheated, things like that. It was clear it wasn't being cared for.
They brought him and his hair was severely matted, and so they had to shave him off.
For now, Johnny says he is focusing on getting to know Pierre again.
I think he was a little unsure who I was at first, but I like to think that he remembers me.
And making sure he's happy.
Hopefully we just give him, a good, comfortable home for the rest of his life. That's really the goal.
Looks like it might be ready to try to make a break for it.
Swift action taken by a group of people with one mission: getting this giant Pacific octopus back in the water.
They can't survive out of water for more than several minutes. It collapses their gills.
That's Annie England with the Padilla Bay Reserve. She got a call from the ranger at Bayview State Park in Mount Vernon about an octopus stranded on the beach.
I wasn't anticipating finding such an alive, healthy octopus.
England credits a little girl who was visiting the beach with her family for keeping the octopus alive.
She was taking water with her little sand bucket and she was filling it up and she was pouring it on top of the octopus.
England says the actions taken by that little girl is the best thing you can do if you ever encounter an octopus out of the water.
We would never encourage the public to try to move an octopus or touch it, but definitely pouring water on it and calling a local aquarium or organization that works with marine animals.
She says finding an octopus alive out of the water is not common and says this is the first octopus rescue she and her team has ever done.
We had to be very conscientious of where we were putting our hands while we were moving the octopus. Thankfully, we were able to get it into the bin and then we were able to drag it out.
Octopus rescue.
England says she's relieved the mission was a success and hopes the octopus doesn't have to ever experience something like this again.
There goes his arm.
Yeah, it's freedom, bud.
He's feeling his way out.
Reporting for King 5 News, I'm Brady Wakayama.
Jenna Nand has always had a love for rabbits.
Kale is their favorite vegetable.
In fact, she takes care of 4 rescues of her own.
Oh, sweetheart. I had rabbits when I was a kid, and they've always been my favorite animal, my favorite pet.
Which is why she was mortified at what she saw during a recent camping trip in Skagit County.
We could see a bunch of little ears popping up.
Jenna and her boyfriend Robert found 33 underweight and dehydrated rabbits, some just 6 weeks old, living under a shed on top of one another in an overcrowded 2-by-8-foot wire pen.
They were always just competing for food like the Hunger Games.
The owners told Jenna the rabbits were being bred for meat. Hearing that, Jenna dug into her pocket and pulled out every dollar she had.
And they had originally told me they wanted $20 per rabbit, but I just said I have $223. It's all the cash I have on me. And so they gave me all the rabbits.
They took the animals to a rabbit rescue in Whatcom County where they're all being cared for, but there was one more matter of business to take care of.
It almost didn't happen because a lot of odds were stacked against me.
The whole purpose for the camping trip was for Robert to propose to Jenna, and that rabbit rescue had thrown a wrench in the works.
I was on edge the whole weekend.
After making sure all of the rabbits would be taken care of, Robert seized his moment.
Once I was sure we weren't going to leave anybody behind, I went ahead and asked her to marry me, and it ended up being a very special weekend. Fate was really on our side.
How many carrots is that?
Oh, that was good.
Come on, you guys. Jenna and Robert now plan to have a rabbit-themed wedding. I probably won't be invited. You know what rabbits do after getting married?
What?
They go on their bunnymoon.
The
You'll be telling that one at the wedding.
Yes, sir.
That's great.
Lucky rabbits, a loving couple, and a last-minute proposal, all rescued.
What a great way to bless our union by rescuing these 33 innocent little rabbits and having this great story to hopefully one day tell our family and tell our children.
Thanks for joining us on this look back at some of our more heartwarming stories from 2023. As we head into the new year, let's work on being kind to each other. In Olympia, Drew Mickelson, King 5 News.